Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. The topic exactly is how global education develops students' skills. I would, like to introduce our speaker for the day, Mr. Tarun Anand. He's the chairman and founder of the Universal Business School, India's first green B school based out of Mumbai.
Thank you, Bharat, for having me. Great, lovely day here because it's just started to rain, so it's lush green, and we're loving the environment here.
Okay, great, sir. So, before we start, I'll just go ahead and I'll try to present my screen so that you also can see the poll. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, so these are the results. So, is global exposure important in higher education? 74% people say yes, it is very important. And then 26% people say it is partially necessary. Sometimes Indian education is also at part. And then the second question was, do you think abroad education makes more sense than education in India? 74% people say yes, and 26% people once again say no. So I think we have a tie in both the questions. So what do you have to say about this?
No, it's fascinating and so true, because I think the world is becoming smaller and smaller, and the pandemic has shown that with technology at our footstep, what we are going through today and over the last 1.5 years, every nation in the world in varying capacities has had the same experience. So I think the world has become smaller, and therefore I think, as we, earlier we used to be nationalist and say our borders and all. Now you cannot stop. There are two elements like the pandemic. You cannot stop it. It's porous. It goes through borders. Similarly, the environment is another big issue. You can't say, you know what, I will not let smoke out or greenhouse gases out in Bombay. It won't affect, my neighboring countries. The world is all connected. So what we do today in India, or what we do anywhere in the world, the impact is going to happen. Of course, relatively, and we call this the butterfly effect. The flapping of the wings of a butterfly in the Atlantic Ocean can cause a storm in the Pacific Ocean. And that's what we're facing today. The Wuhan virus is actually the flapping of wings of a bat, so-called bat. So far, I know there are theories that say it's a leakage out of a Wuhan laboratory, but for the larger part of the year, something happened there, and the whole world has got the virus, right? So the world is connected. And so if students want to engage with the world, I think that's a very encouraging sign, because we're talking of India taking global leadership, and many Indians have led the most amazing companies, whether it's a Google or a Microsoft. So I think Indians' ambitions are very clear. We believe we have the soft powers and the technical know-how to have large opportunities around the world. And I had that same opportunity. I got to work in London for 3 years. I worked in New York for a couple of years, Hong Kong for several years. So I learned all of that. That's all about me getting those opportunities.
It's great, sir. Well, I mean, it is like that, sir. I mean, anything that happens. I mean, if there are elections happening still you took the example of, COVID, but if there are elections happening in US, I mean, we can see things happening in India. If there are elections happening in India, we can see things happening in US. That's one example. We recently, saw a lot of things like that happening, and a lot of international people also talking about all these, global issues. There is an issue going on in somewhere in Tanzania, and there are n number of people, globally, which are talking about it. And then actually that issue is picked, and, people start working on certain things, for the betterment, or, to sort those things out. So, and one more thing, I mean, I'm sure we are going to discuss about, a lot about these global education policies, or, the options that are there, which helps the student in going ahead in terms of their career and their future prospects. But before we start a detailed discussion around that, would you mind giving us some general introduction about UBS and how UBS worked throughout this pandemic and made things possible for its current students, which are already studying there, who are pursuing their BBA and MBA from UBS, and the new students which will be coming into the college to get their degrees.
Great. So let me start by just telling a little bit of the background about UBS. So we were a business school founded by 60 CEOs. These CEOs come from the world's top corporations like GE, Novartis, Barclays, JP Morgan, ExxonMobil, myself, Thomson Reuters. So we 60 CEOs came together to create a world-class business school in India because we felt that it's very critical that the corporate leaders of tomorrow actually are built by corporate leaders of today, right? So the business leaders who know business, who've been there, done that. And so one of the fundamental things that UBS did at the outset was that we wanted our faculty to be players, right? Who've done it. Just give you an analogy, right? You want to learn cricket. You'd go to Virat Kohli or a Sachin Tendulkar because they've batted on every surface, right? And hit it out of the park. You wouldn't want to go to a Harsha Bhogle. He speaks very well, but he's never played any cricket, right? And that was what we saw in the education system in India. All the players, also all the teachers were people who were career academicians. They've never actually done business deals, mergers, acquisitions, negotiations around the world. So how can I teach you what I have not done? Right. So that was our first premise, that we wanted to create a faculty pool, which were business leaders, senior business leaders who've done that. So the guy who will teach leadership, just to give you an example, is Brigadier Chima, who's 37 years in the Indian Armed Forces. The guy who will teach you marketing is a guy who's been with GE. The guy who will teach you finance was treasurer of a French bank. So that's the kind of portfolio we decided we wanted to create. The second thing was, okay, these are the people who've got to create the magic. But how do they create the magic? So what we said was at the outset, again, I'll give it an analogy as I'm a professor. So we said, how did you learn to ride a bicycle? Did you read a book to ride a bicycle? I'm pretty certain no. All of us got on the bicycle, figured it out, fell a few times and got on. So management is also a practical science, right? You can only learn this art and science of management through doing. And I'll give you a few examples of that. So for example, we put you under tremendous pressure, right? We put you in a case blazer, which is non-stop for 48 hours. My undergraduate students, my BPA students, 48 hours, they're solving cases. Day, night, without sleeping an hour, right? Two of you in a team cracking it, and they're competing teams, right? And who solves the case in the way it's required to be done. So it's a case relay and it's a dynamic case. So for 48 hours without sleeping, actually you're allowed 4 hours sleep, but when you're sleeping, your partner is working, right? See, I worked on Wall Street. So you need, many times I wouldn't go home, right? So that's the kind of environment we wanted to create. So that's just one example. If you're interested in finance, I'll give another example. So we have a, global cross asset trading room. So live exchanges, prices from all the exchanges in the world, whether it's New York Stock Exchange, London Stock Exchange, Sydney, Tokyo, Mumbai, everywhere in the world, 100 exchanges come into our trading room. You as a student is given $10 million notional capital, and you have to invest it in bond markets, stock markets, commodity currency markets in 5 continents. Now, why is that important? Like you were saying, everything is connected, right? So if Donald Trump, the president of the United States, says, I'm going to build a wall between Mexico and America, everybody says pagal hai. My student says, you know what? How much will the wall cost? $1 billion. A wall is built by steel and cement. Where are the excessive exports of steel and cement in UK and Europe? So now let's go and invest in that, right? So everything, just one statement of his continues to a chain reaction where investments are made. Now that's what we call the world is connected, and therefore you need to be exposed to it. So the student is actually like a trader in Citibank, New York, or Deutsche Bank, Frankfurt. And he's actually making important decisions in bond markets, stock markets. And that's the real world, right? And you might say, okay, I'm not interested in finance. So I'll give another example. We have a company on campus. So if you're an undergraduate student, and this is my favorite part about what magic we do, you come in, you join this company the day you join your BBA. I'm repeating. You've just entered your Bachelor's of Business Administration. You join a company as an executive. In a year, if you work hard at that company, it's a full-fledged private limited company, right? With 100 employees. You work hard, you can become a vice president in 1 year. You work hard as a vice president, you can become a CXO. What is a CXO? A chief operating officer, chief finance officer, chief marketing officer, and even a CEO. So 8 of my BBA students over the years have made it to the CEO position. Now imagine you finish your BBA, you are at a CEO title. You can put it on LinkedIn. I'm a CEO. And those students are the one who are cracking it all over the world, because though even if you're a vice president, you're managing teams, you're hiring, you're firing, you're making profits, you're making losses, you're signing off on balance sheets, you have a real investment fund to manage. So exactly what you're learning in the classroom, we make you do it in the company, right? And I'm on the board of the company, so I come in as an advisor to students. The amount of maturity they get in 3 years. Yesterday, Ankush Goyal, who was one of my former CEOs, said, you know what? He cracked it from college to Marico. He's now got doubled his salary, right? In the big league at Hindustan Unilever. So the magic happened. And he told me yesterday on the call, he said, you know what? Out of 50% of my call interview, 50% was on my work at Marico, 50% on what I learned in this company when I was in my first year of BBA and then my second year. So I think that's the magic if one can create, and it gives a lot of opportunities. So, that's just some of the stuff we do. So we do global degrees. We have partnered with Cardiff Met University. It's Cardiff School of Management, 150-year-old university in the UK. It's accredited by Quality Assurance Agency. So we give global degrees in India. We give a BBA, a 3-year BBA, or students can opt for a 4-year BBA plus MBA, or they can opt for a BA honors if they're interested in, let's say, economics majors or psychology majors. So these are the 3. Also, they don't have to do the whole program. They can do all 3 years here or all 4 years in India. But if they choose, and it's perfectly fine, in 2 years, they can do and finish their 3rd year of BBA in the UK, or they can go for their 4th year of their master's MBA in the UK. So there are permutations, combinations. So you can either study 1 year in the UK, 2 years in the UK. You can study for 6 months in Europe, part of the program, what we call our Erasmus Plus scholarship, which is availed by students. Then you can either study for, a semester abroad with 30 other European countries, which we have partnerships in US, Europe, and Asia, or you can go for your graduation. So you're getting a global degree while sitting in India. I will leave it more for questions. So this is a little bit about us.
Well, that's certainly said. It did make sense. And, looking at the scenario today, everybody's, the second point that you actually were talking about, where a person, when he's finishing his BBA, he already has a title, which he can go ahead and put on LinkedIn that, okay, this person is actually working as a CEO or as a founder or maybe a co-founder, working on different and several projects which come into existence, when they are actually studying. So right then, they are not just starting as freshers, they are starting with an experience of building up a small, maybe a small company, maybe a small project, something of that sort. And which I think in the current scenario, when everyone is talking about startups, I hope our students, had gone through the news that recently came out, I guess that around April, the government of India has found out or has shortlisted somewhere around 50,000 startups, amongst whom they will be distributing around somewhere around 900 crore or something fund, which has been allocated to these startups. They will be working under, a government organization, and there will be incubators which will be helping them. But I think that this is a very good thing for the students who are finishing up their BBA. They already have a CEO title. That means they have experience of starting up a company from early stage. At a later stage, who knows that a project that the student was working on, maybe a small website, about, as you talked about finance, maybe a small website which is giving people insights or takers about the current market situation, and all those things. Maybe that itself can turn into a business. And it happens, these brokers in international markets, they need such kind of affiliates, they need such kind of people who are continuously working on these websites and these analysis, and they are uploading them for the users, and users are actually following them, by paying great attention and putting their stocks, buying and selling stocks based on those things. And that is a very basic thing. If somebody is working on anything related to AI, it's in the market right now, and it is going to change the world in the next 10 years. 5 years. As a matter of fact, if we see, most of the apps that we are using right now are all AI based. So I think that it is a very good initiative for the students, and it's a very good takeaway for the students if, along with a degree, they are passing out of an institution with an experience of starting something of their own. I think it makes great sense for the students. Well, thank you. I think, I feel like I should be coming and joining once again. All right. So what are your views on coming back to, our discussion that we had about global education? What are your views on global education abroad versus the global education which is provided to our students here in India? There are multiple institutes, multiple universities, good names, good accreditations. The universities have amazing. If we look at the university itself, and the students graduated from there, they are placed at great levels. They're doing exceptionally well in their professional career. So, what do you think? What are your views? We saw the views of the students. In the poll section, all of them think that yes, global is global. Global means you have to be in US or you have to be in UK. But what do you think? What are your views in terms of this?
So, I completely agree with students that this is something which you need to have the ability to work cross-border, the ability to collaborate, influence cross-border, because that's what the world we are, right? We are all on screens and we are doing businesses, companies are doing businesses all over the world. So I think that is a huge skill set, and therefore the desire, I think, to study, actually live and study abroad is not a bad thing, right? It gives you a great opportunity to experience another country, put yourself in a multicultural environment to deal, and therefore it teaches you adaptability, flexibility, the ability to deal with situations which you are not. I myself have worked for 10 years out of India, and so that opportunity to learn abroad is fantastic. So I won't ever disagree with it. The multicultural exposure is unreal. So what we did was, can we do a combination, right? What we thought was we should give our students global education. And there are a few options like this in India, right? Where you can get a joint degree, right? You get a global degree, essentially, and you get the best of both worlds, right? You get the Indian experience. So in case you want to start your businesses in India, you get the global way of learning, right? So what we call global andragogy. I'm not going to use the pedagogy, and I'll explain that why, because I believe that's dead. And every institution of higher education needs to be moving to andragogy, right? So what is that? So what andragogy says, which is a global concept, which India still is very, very early days in adopting, it says that, first understand who is the learner. And that's you, the student. You guys are just turned into adults. You're motivated and self-directed, right? You're not someone who needs to be put in a queue. Pedagogy comes from the word peda. Peda means a child, right? So we're not going to be instructional. All other days, we used to be the sage on stage, right? Oh, Bhagwan aa gaya, padha nahi. We are a guide by your side. So we have to make it an interactive classroom, right? So your views are as important as our knowledge in the classroom, and that together makes a fantastic experience, right? The other thing is you bring your personal interests into the classroom. You get your life experiences. Some of you have had amazing. So we are talking of reflective learning, being critical analysis and creative in the classroom. That's what higher education needs to be. Nowadays, people are less and less grade oriented. You're most goal oriented, right? You say, I want to get there. Whether I get 90% and get there or I get 60% and get there, I want to get there, right? And we know so many people, whether it's Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg, they actually dropped out of college and created multi-billion-dollar companies, right? So they were goal-oriented. They weren't grade-oriented. If they were grade-oriented, they say, you know what, I need to go after 90%. So the world has changed. And therefore, the whole critical thing being goal-oriented, we have to solve real problems in the classroom, right? I'll give you an example. Given this pandemic, there was a paucity of oxygen cylinders and concentrators and ICU beds and medicines and so on. So our students got together in Actis UBS, partnered with another university, Thapar Institute of Technology, created an app called Procure, so that they could, you can actually put in your PIN code and it will give you all the options of what is available. And they are regularly tracking. Every hour they are updating that site. So that's what I'm saying, solving real problems for real people rather than, at the end of the day, I think those students will have done a phenomenal job. And it's okay to fail. Experiment, fail. That's what learning is all about. It's not about instructional learning. And finally, you need to be treated as an equal, right? Your ideas, your feedback, your reasoning is very, very important. And so to my mind, that's what global education brings to the table. And that's what we have adopted in India, right? Then you talk about exposure, and academic rigor. I can guarantee you this because I have nephews who studied in the UK and also our partners, Cardiff, which is a 150-year-old university. They say, Tarun, the kind of rigor that you guys put your students through and these experiences, which I talked to you earlier about, we don't even do that in the UK. We don't do that in Europe. So you guys are putting 3x more effort and we've got commendations. Commendations means one of the best institutes, partners around the world to have done this and bring this to the education system, right? Then they say, you know what? We are mind-boggled that in 1 year, you make the undergraduate students meet minimum 50 to 100 CXOs or CEOs in 1 year. So imagine 3 times, that's minimum 150 CEOs network. Now, network is your net worth, right? You will never get that in the US or America. So that's why I say you get the best of both worlds. You get your global education. And finally, it's a cost arbitrage, right? Let's be very clear, right? To do a BBA in the UK, right? US is even more expensive. UK will be minimum 65 to 75 lakhs, minimum, right? It can even be more in some of the top schools. And what are we saying? We're saying we're giving you the same global degree for 18 lakhs, right? Less than, not even 50%. So what you save those 40, 45, 50 lakhs, why don't you buy yourself a BMW car? Right? That's what we say. Go and buy yourself a BMW car, get the same quality education at a higher rigor, at a higher intensity. And even if you go for 1 year abroad, right, it's still 50% cheaper because you've done 2 years in India and you've done, 1 year in the UK. You'll still spend 30 lakhs all in, whereas there you would spend 70 lakhs. So you're still less than 50% cheaper. Plus you've got a 1 year global experience, exposure, and you've got the global thing. So I think the best of both worlds is great. Of course, if you are a multi-billionaire, then you should go abroad.
Certainly, sir. I agree with you. And as a matter of fact, I had my eyes on the survey, on the poll that we had run in the beginning. Ironically, now, just when we were talking about this one thing, the question that says, do you think abroad education makes more sense than education in India? Now the ratings are yes, 54%, and no, 46%. So yes, I mean, it does make sense. I mean, I honestly don't think so. That while when you're going for education abroad, you're spending a set amount of money, and then you belong to a middle class or a lower middle class family. We all know, there are situations in India, and what are the financial situations with the people right now? How much they can invest, how much they cannot invest. I think it does make sense, going ahead with this. So in the question and answer section also, sir, from one of our attendees, Deepansh Sharma, there is a question which says, what are the benefits of global education over domestic education? So Deepansh Sharma is asking, what are the benefits of global education over domestic education, sir? Do you have a
So
take on that?
I think I answered, so I'm not going to go deep. It's
Yeah,
andragogy versus pedagogy, right?
Yeah.
In India, they treat you like a 2-year-old or a 6-year-old because it's pedagogy. It's all one way technology. I call it technology because it's a one way. The professor comes for 1 hour, he speaks, you take your notes and you go away. That's fine in school. Although that's also changing. If you know, the IB system is completely overhauled, that system, because they believe there is no interaction in the classroom. So that's the whole point. One is that. The second is there is a large focus on research skills. So they make you go through, what they call Bloom's taxonomy, where you actually learn the concept of at the lowest level of Bloom's taxonomy is this concept of mugging, right? Which is in India, everything is mugged. But if after the exam, you finish the exam and 1 hour after the exam or 2 hours, I ask you the question, you've forgotten because you've taken it and you've thrown it out of your system. But when you do it, it's like this. When you learn cycling, even at 80, you'll be able to get on the cycle, right? So this whole concept of experiential learning, by learning by doing, which is the global method, right? And as I said, bringing you into the classroom, your value into the classroom, which you can provide in an interactive fashion, is what global education is all about. And that's why people love it. And of course, the benefits are that, you are a global citizen, right? You can go anywhere in the world for your postgrad, and a global top class university will always look good on your resume.
Okay, great, sir. Once again, so all the people listening to us today, I would request you, if you have any questions related to a BBA program or a management program, I think you can go ahead and you can ask that in the Q&A section. We'll be happy to pick up these questions while we are talking about, the current situation and how global education is important or global exposure is important for improvement of student skills. So answer one more question that we have. It is about, it is about MBA, but I think that this would be a question of a lot of MBA students who are doing MBA from other institutes, apart from, a couple of big names. Why does an IIM MBA graduate earn more than another college MBA graduate? I think, audience, I'm sorry, sir, before you answer, I think even the students of BBA or any management course can relate to it. It happens to be that, students maybe from certain university or they must be thinking that students maybe, the students who get degrees from abroad, they get higher packages or they get more perks or they get easily hired rather than the students who finish their education in India or from not so premier institutes.
So, I think firstly, IIMs, especially the top few, are fantastic institutions. And they do command excellent salaries. Many top multinationals actually go pick them up, take them to their US, European offices. So I kind of, unless you have some data otherwise, I think the top few IIMs are world-class. They're great standard. Of course, they're also changing. I think the one thing that is missing in the IIM, and that is, and all the IIM directors I speak to say this, they had so many applicants, right? 200,000 applicants are dying to get into IIM. I mean, few of those IIMs, right? So there were so much and very good talent, right? 99.99 percentile is what gets you into an IIM. So there's very high talent, too much of it. They did not choose to look outside. They didn't. It's like, can I have and they were obviously run by the government. So their whole focus was to give a high quality education to Indians as opposed to abroad. But because of that tunnel mindset over the years, and they are also changing, because they've realized, to get into global rankings, you need to have a multicultural environment, which India can't give you. Although India has many countries in it, but technically we're all Indians. So what now IIMs are realizing is we are actually in a group with the IIM. So I don't know if you know the GMAC. GMAC is the ones who run the GMAT exam. So we are in a study in India program with IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Bangalore, SP Jain, UBS, and 6 other colleges, where we are going to target international students to come to India in the study in India. So that's what they're trying to change, that multicultural thing they can't do. Whereas if you go to a European business school, or like you come to UBS and go to UK to study, you get that multicultural. And that, as I said, teaches you a lot to deal. I've lived in London, New York, as I said, it completely changes your mind. When you live in these cities, you have to experience the day to day. There's some tough times, there's some, challenges. How do you manage that? That's what gets you dexterity and agility. And that's what is what companies in this kind of pandemics are looking for.
All right. Coming back to our own questions. So, do you think, looking at the current scenario, as we all know that, COVID has impacted a lot of things. This new work culture of working from home is there. Hybrid working is there. People and companies are actually trying and not investing in the office premises as much. They are thinking that we would rather pay our employees a specific amount for their internet, their broadband, and for the extra time that they actually spend these days over phone calls and stuff. So, what do you think? Do you think the work culture or the professional scenario would change in the coming 2 to 3 years as a result of this pandemic?
Of course, there will be a change, no doubt. It was imagined that it'll be a significant shift. Like companies like Google said, or they said we'll get down to 60% of our offices will be shut. Something drastic. I don't know which ones. Infosys
Right.
also mentioned. So I don't think that's going to be true. Because remember, in India, it's nice. Now we don't have an option, so we have to work from home. But there is a lot of magic which happens in the personal touch. And now today's newspapers were saying that a lot of people are saying, if you ask me to work from home, I'm quitting. Okay. So whilst there will be more flexibility, earlier if an employee said, I need to work from home, you would, as a manager, think, yaar, ye kuch kaam nahi karne wala, chutti pe gaya, kuch personal work pe. I think that has changed dramatically because people are responsible. People have, in fact, as Bharat rightly said, have gone and worked even 2x than is required. And their home is actually become the office, which has been tough. And many Indians don't have that kind of homes, right? They don't have those kind of luxury of having a room to yourself. If you have a grandparent in the house, you have, a couple of children who are also doing schooling. That kind of luxury is not that we're not a rich country. So masses cannot do this work from home. Yes, a few multinationals might get away. So I think it won't go the other way. It'll probably be like somewhere in between. But I think, from an education perspective, I see we have, managed to do it for our students. We had to. We didn't have a choice. Although the moment we could open up, we opened up. And we got 4 months of our students in campus. And believe you me, it was night and day, right? It was night and day for us, the students, the faculty, because, looking at that small hole in the laptop and trying to get excitement,
Exactly.
not possible, right? No matter what we try and do, even if I start dancing. So I think the students love this. And remember, as I said, 50% of the learning is outside the classroom. What does that mean? It means you learn from your peers, which in this online world is tougher. So we are very excited to open. Our gates will open, right? And we are expecting it to be in August. Our BBA students will come on our campus and get a face-to-face experience. We've experimented. We know now if the world goes upside down, we can manage. And we did. So we did exams online, like with AI proctoring. We used Zoom to do our, became a necessity. And all our case studies were done through the breakout rooms. We had a lounge created on Zoom for entertainment where girls and guys would come and dance and do stand-up comedy. So we tried all of that. We had to make the thing work. We tried online gamification. So, the broad thing is we have now been adapted to this new world. It's not been fun. It's been like, okay, chalta hai, we had to do it. But I think, technology is going to be here to stay. And that is the great part. So there are some huge advantages to technology, like what we call self-learning, where certain things you can actually do a great job learning on so many such amazing platforms like Coursera, edX, or Udemy. There are some great self-help where you actually don't need this kind of interaction or that, camaraderie. So you can actually acquire some really good knowledge and some, I won't say skills. Skills have to be practiced to be developed. So companies hire you for knowledge, skills, and attitude. Knowledge you can possibly acquire online, right? Skills you need to come to the class, right? Because that's where you actually, put it's like a doctor. He needs to be on the patient. He can't, without the patient, he cannot do it. Similarly, in management, unless you don't have that, engagement, it's not going to be possible. So I think that's where I would put it at this stage. It helps, and I do agree with you what Bharat you said. AI is the future, so start developing your mindset to be more tech savvy, more AI, deep learning, machine learning, augmented reality. That world is going to just completely change. Bharat, I can't agree with you more. 10 years, you will not be able to recognize.
We're seeing things happening.
It's going to change.
Yeah, and right now maybe they might look like really small things, but they're going to make a big impact in future.
Huge.
So, and I think the key takeaway from this session, I think for all the students who are there with us, it will be these factors, as Sir rightly said. When we talk about knowledge and all these things, see, the opting for the right course and the education or the degree or the anything that you're going for right now after year 12, that is going to make a huge difference, because you will get to learn global trends, and what are the technical or technological developments which are happening across the globe in terms of, in terms of work cultures. Like, we clearly and easily absorbed how Google's work culture was in US. They had an open office, they had an open sort of an environment. Anybody can walk in, they have sleeping pods and all those things. Apart from that, to reach there, I think it is very important for students to understand the global trends which are, which actually enable these companies to give their employees certain benefits of this sort. So I think everybody needs to take care of, what the world is headed towards, what sort of knowledge and professionalism you would need, along with the normal degree or along with normal education that you're having. You have to continuously work on yourself to be at par. I think that's the way to go about it. Okay, so there's a good question coming up. What are the benefits of studying a global MBA 1 year in India and another year in US, and how the placements will play important role in it? I think we can go and we can bifurcate it to a couple of countries, maybe US, UK, Australia, Canada. We can give students some options, because I'm sure this might be there in a lot of students' minds.
So, I assume this, that UK, the entire UK, whether it's London Business School or Judge at Cambridge or Oxford University's Side Business School or Warwick, Cass, all the business schools, all the top business schools, they only have a 1 year MBA.
Right.
There's no concept of a 2 year MBA. Similarly, if you go into Europe, whether it's INSEAD or IE, where I've studied in Spain, in Madrid, or IESC in Europe, all European schools have gone to a 1 year model. You move to Singapore, Hong Kong, all schools have, because they have a large European influence, they've all gone into the 1 year model. America was the original MBAs incorporated in America, and Tuck Business School was the first business school. They started with a 2 year MBA. Now, what was interesting is nearly 40% of all MBA schools in America from a 2 year have moved to a 1 year MBA. Now, why? Ask yourself why. So when the what I call the Britishers started this, they went to the top companies and said, what are you looking for in this MBA thing? So the companies in Europe, all the multinationals said, we're looking for these 10, 20 things, right? We said, if we can do that 10, 20 things in 1 year, do you have a problem? No, we want the skill. Whether you take 1 year to do it or 2 years, I don't care. I want the skill. So that's why they started the 1 year. And now America, under pressure, has moved to a 2 year, has moved to a 1 year. Like 40% schools have stopped their 2 year MBA program and done just a 1 year. And the big schools, like the Ivy League schools, they have made their second year completely experiential. which means you have to go to Asia. So I'm on the Michigan Business School alumni committee in India. So for Michigan, the students for the MBA class come to India and they spend 4 months or 3 months in India. They start from Chennai, develop an idea, go to Bangalore, develop a financial model, entrepreneurial model, come to India, look at the business plan, and then go to Delhi and make it a pitch to thing. So we facilitate that. That's what they go into a new environment, actually learning with their hands, getting dirty, right? Experiential. So my point is, so that's just to give you a little lay of the land. Now, from a perspective, I will never be able to say, of course, the Ivy League, the best schools in the world are in the US, Harvard, Wharton, Stanford, and all of those. But funnily, London Business School is also in the top 3, right? So there's no say one is better. It's all according to you. INSEAD also in an international MBA is always number 1 because it has the most diverse group of students from all over the world. So I think, your choice of a 1 year versus 2 year is a function of, location preference. And secondly, I think it's a function of you want to go deeper into specialization than possibly, or you want a dual specialization, then possibly a 2 year might be more important. From a job perspective, you know what? It's a global talent market, right? The same multinational is sitting in US, same is sitting in Europe, and same is sitting in Singapore, Hong Kong. So they are for top schools, there is a tier of income, right? It doesn't matter, मैंने यूरोप में लिया मुझे ज़्यादा मिलेगा, and anyway you shouldn't think that way because it's not how you start the game, it's how you finish the game. Your career is a marathon, right? If I have to look back at my career from SP Jain, my first salary was the lowest in the entire class. Okay, it was the lowest. In fact, people used to call me loser because I couldn't get the highest salary. I mean, not even highest, not even mid, not even median. I got the lowest.
I think I found 2 questions out of that, sir.
In 7 years, I was ahead of all of them. And this is not with all due humility. So I always say it's not how you start, it's how you finish the game. Finally, the value you give into the company will see your multiplier and the exponential rise in your earnings.
Right, sir. I agree with you completely. That was my second question, but you somewhere you answered it that within 7 years you were there. So my actual question was that how did you cope up with that? Because people have this thing in their mind that okay, what if I get a lower salary? I mean, what am I going to do? But yes, I mean your answer, the way you presented that okay, within 7 years I was this, and that was only because of your hard work and whatever value you added to the work that you were doing and to the company, obviously. So there's a question which is. In the current scenario, I'm concerned about the number of students taking up BBA program for global exposure. What happens if there are selected students only who want global exposure, and there are students who are looking for exposure in specific countries or specific region? So how do we go about that? I mean, if somebody opts for the final year in UK or maybe any other country, will he be able to do internship in that country, or will he be able to do internship in India?
Great. So a few questions here, very quickly. If you do the 3 years in India, you'll obviously do internships in India, and we'll organize that. If you go for the final year in UK. After that, you get what is called a 2-year work visa. And this is a fantastic thing about just the UK. You don't get it in US. You get it only in the UK. Where you have the opportunity to work for 2 years. So it's not an internship, it's a post your bachelor's degree. You will get an opportunity to earn and kind of repay or make up the cost. So that's the thing. In terms of few students, it doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, it's an opportunity. Why is someone going to the UK? Someone is going to the UK not because 6 or 10 people are going from here. It's because I want to get the UK experience, right? So at the end of the day, there's no limit in our world, at least. I don't know about other colleges. If 300 want to go to UK, we can organize 300. If 2 want to go to UK, that's also possible. So there's no reason for you not to go. And also, let's get this right. The pandemic's today. This year, it should be over, if not by sure I mean, I'm willing to put my neck on the line that in 2022 will be over. You will be going in 2023, so you don't have anything to worry. The world will be fine. So rest assured, don't be paranoid about future. 3 years later, क्या होने वाला? सब ठीक होगा.
Yeah, because there was one more question in the Q&A section, sir, which said so many there are so many players who are offering study abroad programs. They were not able to send out their students abroad because of the pandemic. Our attendees want to know: was UBS able to send their students abroad?
Two of my students are in Europe right now. They went.
Okay.
So absolutely. Luckily, we got that window. I'll be honest, it was very fortunate. We got that window. They left in March and then it took off. So by then they were there, right? So
that is great.
Luck tha, but absolutely, we could do it. Many schools couldn't. And honestly speaking, it was a bad year, right? But that shouldn't bother you. You're not going to face it. It's this year. It's like saying the market crashed 2 years ago. Why should I bother about it? It's not going to be my crash to deal with.
Right, sir. And sir, I basically, when we were talking about, we also talked about students coming back to college. So when do you see that happening now?
So our MBA students will join in August, which is normal time. So we are pretty confident. Of course, one can't be so confident that third wave can come, might not come. But all the signals are telling us that should be possible. And our undergraduate students normally come in August, but because of this 12th standard debacle of results, we have moved it out by 2 weeks. So they will come in end of August. So there's a 2 weeks, which we'll cover up. That's no big deal.
Okay, sir. Okay. And we have a couple of more questions. So
get vaccinated.
I think we answered this, but then still, has the COVID-19 pandemic affected UBS, and have you taken any special initiatives? I mean, if we talk about this year, we know about last year because we had a discussion like that, and in the beginning also you gave us a close idea about it. But how are we dealing with the situations if we talk about students who are supposed to pass out their placements in other scenarios? Are we taking care of that?
So we broke it down into 3 areas. One was the academics. So that's, of course, I talked about all the tools and the way we did it. We used the online platform, so that was fine. The second was health, safety. Those were critical because, as I said, all our students were on campus.
Yeah.
So we had a very stringent norm. We had created a bio bubble, and we insisted on RT-PCRs to get in. Nobody could leave out. Quarantine facility. Everybody had to go through the quarantine, and therefore we were very fortunate again that we could manage to create this bio bubble, so it was fully safe for our students. And then when it started going up, we pulled the plug. In fact, it was literally within 48 hours. I said we're going to have exams. In 48 hours, I said no. The news is looking very ugly. Before the government could react, we got our students out, and luckily they all reached home safely. So that was the health. Of course, there's the mental health. So we had our counselors and we did mental health sessions, yoga, all of that good stuff. So there's health, there's academics. In academics, I talked about the exam. So that was it. The third was on the placement find, which is the corporate relations. A lot of our BBA final year students, in fact, more than I think 50%, which has never happened, chose to do their MBA with us, right? They normally we get 20 to 30% who haven't. I mean, there are students who choose to do a 4-year BBA plus MBA. So then they're fine. They're all in their process. Those who choose to do the BBA and then say, I'll work for a few years, because the pandemic was there, they said, oh, let's finish our MBA. Matlab, lage haath, let's get it in 4 years, get out, get ahead. So honestly, we were very fortunate in that sense because they said, why not we have a global MBA in our house? Let's do it here. And the balance, we have a large corporate relations team. So we were very easily able to get them, employment opportunities and in this period. Of course, all of them are still online because companies still haven't opened up. Hopefully in the next few weeks, they will start opening up.
Okay, sir. I think there are some common questions in the Q&A section. So one last question that I have is, what do you think that the students can actually, take away from this situation of pandemic? I mean, how to convert these challenges brought to us by this pandemic into opportunities?
So I always say, that if some of you have seen, there's a movie in which Vidya Balan says entertainment, entertainment, entertainment. I call it now practice, 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 or skill, 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 whichever way you want to do it. So I think it is a tough time, and many families are having genuine tough economic situations, and every family is affected with someone who's had it, or a close friend who's unfortunately passed away. So it's been a tough time, right? There's no two ways about it. And I think the way in a tough time is to say, okay, I can't change what's not in my control. What's in my control is for me to develop myself, for me to look at this situation and say, what can I do to develop myself? And so we have curated an experience for our undergraduate students, whether I talked about the case blazer, so that they can handle pressure and adaptability, right? The summer internship will help them solve problems in the market. The company I was talking about, that's going to help you build your communication, your creativity, your entrepreneurship skills. We have a program. Our program mandates our undergraduate students to play sports every week because of not only health, but again, sports can be pressure. Teamwork is very important. Sportsmanship. It's okay to lose a game. You don't say, I'm never going to play that game, right? And then we say, we have a program for our undergraduate called Wisdom Towards Self-Excellence, where we say, you got to be empathetic. You need to be helping out people in tough times. So I think if you can, find ways to do this, and it's all there. Luckily on the internet, all of these things are available. So seek out that you don't focus on the negativity or the gloom and doom, which is there. I'm not saying the economy is messed up and it's going to take time for revival. But what can I do is invest in myself. So I would say use this time judiciously. Look out for micro credentials. You figure out what your interests lie. Read a lot of books. I would say read autobiographies of Elon Musk. Read of Jack Ma of Alibaba. Elon Musk, I'm sure, is the SpaceX and Tesla, and several others. Phil Knight of Nike. I'll just say keep throwing books at you. Pick up these books because you will start imbibing it, and there will be Elon Musk and Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg's in your mind, right? And you will never know when it comes out. So that to me is invest in yourself and stay healthy, right? Be fit.
Well, certainly, sir. I think, and that is one thing, since the time and education has evolved so much. Career or profession, in fact, education. They're most important factor. These are most important factors that everyone has to focus on these days. I mean, start thinking of about yourself. What are your strengths? What are your skills? What are your areas of interest? Your career expectations. I mean, do you value independence in a job, basically, or do you like more and more leadership opportunities? Do you like working, working in environments where you can actually, explore different verticals or different opportunities coming globally to you? Or are you a people's person, more or less? You can always be to such kind of professions. All these things will help you actually, will help the students narrow down which career suits them best, programs, obviously, they have that thing at the back of their mind, but which skills do they have that they need to nourish, or, they need to practice upon, which can actually take them to the next level. Somebody might not be a good speaker, but he knows his data well. He's good with Excel, he's good with presentations. So I think if that person focuses over there, nobody is 100%, so one thing can actually come down and the other qualities can actually take over that and can turn him into a confident candidate. And see, with CollegeDekho also, we offer certain kind of counseling sessions and all these things for all the students who are actually opting for bachelor's or for master's degrees. We go ahead, we offer them information around the colleges, courses, entrance exams, admission notifications, changes in the patterns, scholarships, and all such related topics. But skills in all these, and practicing those skills, this is something the students have to do themselves. I mean, for other things, yes, there are career counselors, there are other people who can maybe guide you, but yes, for all these things you need to practice yourself, and then only you'll actually achieve what you want to achieve, or where you want to reach. So, sir, I think it was a great session. I say it was outstanding, insightful, and a lot of our attendees had questions which we answered. It would have been, and a lot of their doubts would have been cleared. So, on behalf of our attendees and on behalf of CollegeDekho, sir, I would really like to thank you for your valuable time and sharing your experience with us, and giving us all this virtue of understanding how the global education operates and how the education in India is actually at par.
Thank you so much. Thanks a ton, and wish all the students all the very best. And as we say in UBS, work hard but party harder.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Take care. Take care, everyone. And before we end, I would just like to tell you about CollegeDekho. You already know us. We are a unique discovery platform which connects education seekers with education providers, at the same time offering you information about all the things that I just told you. We have more than 500 colleges and universities on board with us domestically, and we also handle abroad admissions. But then you can go ahead, you can go to our website, apply in multiple colleges and courses from one single window. Thank you.